Watch Out for Smoke Demons by Lukkynumber. There's a thing called a smoke demon. I know. It sounds kind of goofy and cartoonish, and I suppose maybe it isn't a big deal. It's not something that most people have to deal with. But just to be safe, I think I should let you know about them, so you can exercise caution. Now, the smoke demon isn't really a proper demon, nor is it made of smoke. It's an entity that was created for torture and punishment in the afterlife. It's not believed to possess much in the way of sentience, not in the traditional sense. It doesn't think or feel. It simply knows one thing, an instinctual need to satiate hunger. It quite literally feeds off of the fears and pain of the souls who suffer at the hand of a smoke demon. Sometimes, very rarely, its overlords will lose track of a smoke demon. This is a worrisome thing. It can only manifest in an earthly form when smoke is present, however, and in large enough quantities, roughly enough smoke to conceal a small humanoid-sized shape. So the puff of black billowing out of your toaster when you burn an English muffin won't be an issue. The most common instance of a smoke demon coming into contact with live humans is during a large fire. There's a reason why people in house fires are said to suffer one of the most horrific deaths. In many cases, they are literally being eaten alive by a smoke demon, as they're also dying from smoke inhalation and their flesh is cooking. Trust me, out of those three experiences, the smoke demon is the worst part. But anywho, I just want to stress that if you should find yourself suddenly near a plume of smoke, retreat. And when enjoying the great outdoors, beware. It's not your imagination that the smoke seems to follow you around the campfire. Demonic Depression. Unknown author. You have forgotten us. You think you know us, but you do not. We are more subtle than you have been led to believe. We are more dangerous, and we are more prevalent. We take you slowly, incrementally, chipping away at your psyche, so carefully, so cleverly, that you do not notice that you are changing. Even if we err, and you perceive a slight shift, an internal imbalance, you ascribe to it as hormones or side effects from your medication or a vitamin deficiency. You adjust your diet, your routine. You take supplements. You change medication. But already, it is too late. Our changes cannot be undone. Your life has begun to go awry. What once you enjoyed, now you find menial. Colors seem less bright. Music becomes noise. Food loses its flavor. You lose interest in the people around you, and they lose interest in you. You are disenchanted, lost, a non-entity. It can take years, decades even. We are patient, but one day you will look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back. It looks like you, but it is not you. We have taken all that you were and all that you might yet have been. Your end is close now, our triumph near, and we begin to whisper to you, You do not recognize that your thoughts are not your own. You listen. It is not long before the pills in your cabinet begin to look appealing, the knife in your kitchen friendly. And when you stare into the abyss and find that you like what you see, we whisper to you, one last time. Join us. And you do. The Demon of Desire, unknown author. He sat in the dark listening to music. He was listening to sad love songs. All he wanted was to feel loved, but he felt so alone. As he sat there, a few tears began to creep down his cheek. That was when he swore he heard a whisper. I'm here for you. He heard a woman's sultry voice say. He looked around and saw he was still alone. I'm losing my mind from loneliness, the man said to himself. He began to cry, and then he heard it again. I'm here for you. Don't cry. This time, he swore he felt a hand on his shoulder. He continued to cry. It became sobs of grief. You're not real. It's all in my head. He got out, in between his sobbing. He swore he felt a hand on his leg now. Suddenly his pants came undone, and he could feel the hand touching him. His manhood. I'll make you feel better. Just lay back and relax, the sultry voice said. He did as commanded. He could feel everything, but he never opened his eyes. He was afraid of what he would see. Look at me, the woman's voice said. I want you to see me, she continued. He decided he would look. He had to see who or what it was. He opened his eyes and could see this pale and beautiful woman. And as he reached completion, he became tired, very tired. Sleep. Sleep now, the woman said as he began to slowly close his eyes. He tried resisting, but he could not. Sleep and never wake, the pale woman said. You are mine, now and forever. Doctor, what happened to this man? The nurse asked. The doctor was examining the shriveled husk of a man. Not sure. By all accounts, he was fine the day before, the doctor said. Then a priest walked in. I'm here to say a prayer for this poor soul, the priest said. I'm here to give him his last rites, the priest added. The doctor stepped away, and she and the nurse hung their heads in solace. The priest said a short but sincere prayer. The doctor left, and the nurse looked to the priest. What do you think happened to this man? The nurse asked. The priest looked at the husk of a man in a coma. I'd say a demon did this. A demon that comes for men in their dreams. The priest let a single tear fall and began to walk away when he heard a sultry woman's voice say, I'm here for you. Her Demon Face by 1001 Nights. Alice was a newborn baby when her mom discovered, quite by accident, that her reflection in the mirror is that of a demon. Alice was a fine-looking baby, but her reflection in the mirror revealed her face as a hideous, fanged, skinless monstrosity. Her mom, being a mom, naturally continued loving Alice and did everything possible to protect her. She left her husband, Alice's dad, escaping overnight with Alice to remote Canada, where she built a new life for herself and Alice. A life based on not having any mirrors anywhere. Fortunately, Alice's demon face was revealed only in actual mirrors, not in reflections in windows, which made things easier. Car rides with anybody other than Mom was strictly forbidden, as was daycare and school, and play dates at other people's homes, although children were invited over freely. Alice's mom became known as a harmless single mom, understood to be avoiding an abusive partner, supporting herself and her shy daughter by teaching English online. The townspeople respected her need for privacy and limited social life. Occasionally, she would glimpse her daughter's flaming eyes and flayed face in the rearview mirror, and her commitment to protecting her grew even stronger. Alice's mom homeschooled her, and as time passed, her worst fear remained unrealized. Alice wasn't actually a demon, just had a face of one, or at least that was what the mirror showed. Otherwise, she had a perfectly normal face, and her behavior seemed normal, a stolid, somewhat unimaginative child. Even when her mom revealed her secret to her, when she was around 8, for her own care and protection, Alice seemed unfazed. They adopted an outdoorsy lifestyle, camping and hiking often, in tune with the small town Alice's mom had chosen as their home. The two lived quietly enough until Alice's mom died of cancer when Alice was a young adult. Alice had made some friends through camping and hiking groups. With the death of her mom, she naturally gravitated more towards them. One day, out hiking with some girlfriends, Alice caught her ankle on a branch and fell, bashing her head on a rock on the way down. Her friends knelt by her still body, calling her, and one of the girls drew out a pocket mirror and held it in front of Alice's face to check her breath. She began screaming. The girls crowded around the mirror to see, and they all screamed, horrified at the pulsing, skinless face and fangs protruding from the lipless mouth. Alice's fiery eyelids fluttered in the mirror. The screaming grew louder. Then one girl snatched up a rock, and just as Alice was opening her eyes, smashed it down on her face. The other girls followed, grabbing up sticks and rocks, beating down on poor Alice's face. Soon Alice was unrecognizable, lying in a pool of blood, her face smashed in. The girls, panting, looked at each other and their bloody weapons. The small mirror, broken and splattered with blood, lay on the ferns. Long Time Running by Psyopticnerve. I'm not prepared for what awaits me tonight. Bags of groceries fall from my hands as two men in dark suits take hold of my arms the moment I walk through the door, dragging me roughly toward the kitchen. There's Sybil, gagged and bound to a chair. Her emerald eyes are wide, terrified. Well, well, there you are. Alistair greets me from across the room, rolling up his sleeves. You're not so easy to find, you know. This is the last place I expected you to be. Hiding out, playing house in suburban paradise. Alistair crosses the room, standing eye to eye with me. Did you forget that I fucking own you? His question is accentuated by punches to my ribs. His men let me fall to the ground, gasping for breath. Alistair leers down, radiating rage. His paper-thin disguise threatens to tear open, revealing the demon beneath. He slicks back the strands of hair that have fallen into his face, regaining his composure. So, this is the thanks I get. I bail you out of hell, I give you a job, and you run off to shack up with this witch? He rasps, pointing a pistol at Sybil's head. Please, I wheeze, her muffled screams breaking something inside me. Don't hurt her. No, it's time you get back to working for me. No more distractions. Say goodbye. Don't, please. She's pregnant, I plead. Alistair turns towards me, laughing unpleasantly. Well, this is a first, he cackles, addressing Sybil. A witch, knocked up by a demon? Oh, how unfortunate for you. He lowers the pistol to her stomach. Sybil writhes against her restraints, and I struggle to my feet. Alistair's men quickly subdue me. Sybil locks eyes with me, tears streaming down her cheeks. I feel my heart shatter as I choke out my last words to her. Sybil, I love... Then the house begins to shake, and the lights begin to flicker. Alistair's men loosen their grip as a shadow rises up the wall behind Sybil. It rears its horned head, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Its clawed fingers tear at the ropes around Sybil, slicing through them with ease. Alistair falls back as she hovers above the tile, her eyes pure white. She points a long finger at the floor, and it splits open, revealing only darkness below. Go back to hell, where you belong, she roars. The shadow behind her spreads its wings, its unholy scream forcing me to my knees. I watch in awe as Alistair and his men shed their human forms, shrieking desperately as they're pulled into the spreading darkness. The floor seals shut, and the shadow vanishes. Sybil rushes over, wrapping me in embrace. We must go, she breathes in my ear. They will return. I know she's right. I know they'll be back. But I also know the unborn abomination inside of her is capable of looking out for us all. Notes of a Demon, unknown author. Greetings, I am a demon. What kind of demon, you ask? The answer is simple. The kind that destroys the universe. How, you ask? The answer is simple. By taking over a human body and using its cells and tissues to create something. Something most people would call a monster. Whose body I'm gonna use? The answer is, as always, simple. By letting you read this story, I have entered your mind. While you are reading this sentence, I am already close to taking over. So, just sit down and try to relax. It will be over soon. The Talisman by the Prowler. I was in the middle of hour 12 of my shift when they wheeled her body in. I should have already been out of this place, but they just kept bringing in body after body. Supposedly the police had just busted up a cult in some old house in the woods, and this was the aftermath I was left to deal with. I've been a coroner here with the Norman, Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office for 20 years now, and I've never seen so many bodies in one night. There were 10 bodies in total, plus multiple decomposing severed limbs, which I'm presuming belonged to past victims of this cult. Out of the 10 bodies, 7 were cult members, 2 police officers, and the last was a cult's recent victim. Me and my colleague processed all of the cult members and the 2 police officers. When we got to the cult's victim, my colleague's cell phone rang, and after a 2-minute conversation, he sounded frantic. Then hung up the phone and told me his wife was going into labor and asked if he could leave. I told him to get the hell out of here and be with his wife. This was the last body after all. I got the young woman's body on the slab and started looking her over. She looked to be in her early 30s with dark black hair and multiple cuts and carvings all throughout her body. It seemed that the cause of death was the cutting of her throat, but I wouldn't know for sure until a complete examination. As I looked up and down her body, I saw what seemed to be ancient lettering carved into her skin. From head to toe, she was covered. I don't know what it was, but I could only imagine the pain this poor girl went through when they were carving into her. As I reached her head and just about to examine her mouth, the lights went out. I jumped out of my shoes a little bit. The lights had never gone out the entire time I've worked here, so needless to say, I was a little startled, but didn't get too spooked until I noticed the emergency lights hadn't come on. I couldn't see anything at this point, so I stepped away from the autopsy table, pulled out my cell phone, and went to search for the breaker box to turn the lights back on. As I stepped into the corridor that connects the autopsy room to the janitor's closet, I began to hear a metal tapping coming from behind me. At least that's what I thought I heard, but I brushed it off as just me being spooked, or the old pipes in the wall. I made my way to the janitor's closet, found the electrical box, and turned the lights back on. But when I closed the closet door, I heard a woman humming. It was coming from the autopsy room. I stood up against the door, frozen. There shouldn't be anyone here, I thought. I gathered the courage to start heading back to the autopsy room, telling myself I'm just hearing things. As I got to the doorway, I peeked in the room. No one was there. I sighed in relief and approached the autopsy table and went back to work. As I went back to examining her mouth, I could see there was something in there. I took my pliers and pulled out an oddly shaped wooden talisman. It was some kind of cross-like shape I've never seen before, but was obviously up there by the cult members. I turned around to examine it further, and after a couple of minutes, I placed it in the metal tray. But when I turned around, she was gone. The lights began to flicker. A woman's sinister laughter started to echo throughout the room. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. My body was trembling in complete fear. Macabre chanting could be heard from inside the lockers, where the bodies of the cult members were. The locker doors started opening and slamming in a thunderous fury. Just then, in the corner of the room, out of the shadows, the body of the woman I was examining stood and smiled at me with the most evil of smiles. She reached out her arm towards the talisman. I started to make my way to the door. Right when I was about to run out, she screamed,
"I want your soul."
I turned and ran. I made it to the office and shut the door. Now I'm here trapped Their loud banging and screaming is all I can hear. If you find this note, please believe what I am telling you. I did not end my own life. I was not murdered by some intruder. Whatever you do, burn the bodies in the morgue. And burn that talisman. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.